Hello, YouTube. Alright, I would like to go over the last series, but before that, I'm going to take this as a chance to talk about the issue again while I'm in it, because this is something I care a lot about for various reasons, because I find it difficult up and unnecessary. But in the last video, I think I might have said between 80 and 120,000 children die a year from circumcision in America. Obviously, that's not what I intended to say. And I just want to clarify, because I don't want to sound like I was lying and or just plain stupid. Probably stupid, because that's such a ridiculous over-exaggeration if it sounds idiotic. But what I intended to say was between 80 and 120 children die a year from male genital mutilation or circumcision. But certainly not 120,000, but that's still far too many, especially considering the fact that we don't need this surgery done to children in the first place anyways. And at least not for the most part, or in most cases. And while you might not care, or you might not say that's a lot, you might not think it's a lot, I would imagine if you have any heart in you whatsoever, you would care that you would care that the child died if it was your child or kid that died from this procedure after you agreed to have it done. I would imagine you'd be agreeing. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would just be like, well, he's dead, and you throw him in a landfill along with his dick skin and whatever else. And then you just go to banging and you fucking pump out another kid that you can mutilate, because obviously you care more about genital mutilation than you do your kids. But nevertheless, or at least it seems that way to me. But nevertheless, between 80 and 100 children, between 80 and 120 children do die a year from this procedure, and it is bullshit. But not at 80 and 120,000, obviously. And beyond that, I would like to talk about the last video and go over the overview of that. It shouldn't take long, but I think that obviously Reagan was a senile old kook and a crook who helped the CIA, allowed the CIA to bring drugs into the country, gave Iran during an arms embargo various weapons, made a weapons trade with Iran during an arms embargo. At a time, probably, by the way, where they were more extreme then than they are now. Under the original Ayatollah, pretty early in the Ayatollah's reign, to get out certain hostages. And while I understand wanting to get those hostages out, giving Iran weapons at the same time we're not complaining about them having weapons is a bit idiotic. And he just did a number of things wrong. And he's not the saint that he's pretended to be. Bill Clinton, like his fucking cunt of a wife, is a genital mutilation shilling, hypocritical, dishonest, gender biased crook who bombed Iraq, almost started a war with Russia, lied to a lot of people. I didn't even go into NAFTA and how he helped fuck up. Well, I have talked about it before, but he helped him and Gore, because Gore is such a genius. Not that I disagree about him with him about global warming, but still, he's such a genius. But yeah, he pretty much fucked up Mexico's economy and fucked their agriculture up, helped wreck that country, or allowed corporations to wreck that country. And how Bill Clinton was not nearly as involved in the peacetime, in the good economy as he claims to be, or as people have said he was. Because again, the Soviet Union fell, or there was the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, the Soviet Union fell, you had the rise of the internet, and for whatever reason there was a peacetime, and all of that put together helped the economy quite a bit. So he sucked. George Bush sucks for too many damn reasons to name. Like I said, he's probably the worst president in U.S. history, but 9/11 happened under him. We went into Afghanistan to get bin Laden. Bin Laden wasn't there. And then we went into Iraq to find weapons of mass destruction. There were none. And then before it was all said and done, he collapsed the entire fucking economy. Obama was another crook who didn't shut down Guantanamo Bay, didn't approve of gay rights, didn't run on supporting gay rights. It took him forever to do anything for LGBT people, or whatever you want to say, or call that. By the way, I remember being either LGBT or GLBT. I'm not sure when they decided that the L came first. That's probably gender bias, but I don't even want to go into that. But he did nothing really to support LGBTQ people. forever until closer towards the end of his presidency and his second term in office. And perhaps he was just simply waiting out the first term in office because American, whether we like it or not, and we shit on the politicians and people, but the public can be pretty damn ignorant themselves. We proved that with genital mutilation. It still happens almost half of it, probably almost half to half of the children born in the country. Though some people say it maybe as low as 40%, it's still a lot of fucking people. And it took us forever to get down to that rate. I mean, we were doing it for a good half a century or more to probably the majority of the children born in the country. It didn't start to decrease or go down until the late 90s. So, and it's still too damn many. But the point is, we can be very ignorant. There's still a lot of ignorance around homosexuality and especially transgenderism. I think a lot of the bias and the kind of negative stigma and whatever associated with being gay is still being associated with transgenderism, especially, and it affects transgender people, especially transgender children and younger adolescent transgender people, transgender teens or transgender teenagers and people trying to become female or transition over to being female, and it affects androgyny. So maybe Obama had a reason for that. Maybe he had some good reason or reasoning, and he was simply waiting until the last term to do some of this. And not everything he did in his second term was bad. I mean, he did start to positively affect the country a little bit. He also did some really annoying shit in the last term in office, and certainly in the first one, and that was Obama. So all things considered, I would say that our presidential warmongering, as well as warmongering, at least in the case of Bill Clinton, but warmongering, hypocritical, biased, double standard, having hypocritical, genital mutilation, shilling, vulture capitalists, and or vulture capitalism supporting corporate-backed, banker-backed, in some cases racist, homophobic, transphobic, idiotic, lying, deceitful, Wall Street supporting and Wall Street supported, feminazi, communist, Nazi motherfuckers, and mostly white guys who suck. And that's pretty much my opinion of the entire United States. So stop, or not the United, but rather the presidents and the White House and the government, and a lot of the fucking United States, a lot of the people in the country. And I would say that you should stop blaming Trump for everything, regardless of whether you like Trump or not, regardless of whether he's a good president or not. You need to stop blaming him for everything and acting like getting rid of this one guy is really going to help the country, because it's not. Because we had far more problems far before Trump ever even thought about running for president. That goes back a long damn ways and had jack shit to do with fucking Trump. So stop trying to blame him for every damn thing, because that's not going to fix shit. You have to fix this, the systematic problems in the country, and you're not doing that. But that's not even to say you have to support Trump. Just stop trying to say that he's the only problem in this country, or even the main problem, because he's not. And again, he wants to deport illegals, as opposed to Obama and Bush, who didn't want to deport illegals or send illegals back to their countries. The only thing they wanted to do was send bombs to those countries to blow them up, in helping create at least a lot of the fucking immigration problem that Trump now has to deal with himself anyways. Not to count the economic issues and the bad economic policies that I just talked about with NAFTA and so forth, that helped collapse other economies, especially in Latin America, that led to the mass immigration into America that Trump is now having to deal with. But regardless of all that, they're all fucking crooks. Pretty much, fuck the USA. And that's that. T666.